Welcome to Tales of Honor, a podcast with a mission to tell the true stories of every recipient of our nation's highest military award, the Medal of Honor. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tales of Honor podcast. This is episode number 619, continuing on with our series of living Medal of Honor recipients. After this episode, we will be 77% complete, having completed 50 out of the 66 recipients. So very close here on the home stretch of finishing out these living recipients, and then we'll carry back into other recipients. Let's see here. No birthdays to go over today. I do have one bit of news/business to go over today, and that is I want all of you listening right now that aren't already subscribed to the Digression podcast to go over and do that. I have a link in the show notes to their webpage, which is thedigressionpodcast.com, but you can also listen to the Digression podcast anywhere you are currently listening to this show. So pretty much all the major platforms that you can get your media from. I've had the pleasure of being on their show in the past, and Chris and Jody were kind enough to have me on now as a semi-permanent host to help them record some of their other episodes, such as their Masters of Warfare series that just came out on May 12th, and I was happy to host their 7th iteration of their Masters of Warfare series, which was episode number 103 on Pompey. So I do urge all of you to go over and check that out. Thank you again to Chris and Jody for being such great guys with having me on the show, plugging this show as much as they have. I really, really, really appreciate it, and I'll do everything I can to help them with their show, and I would like all of you to go give their show a listen as well. Actually, their most recent episode, which is one that I was not on, was about military war movies, real war movies, and it was a good little shake-up from what they usually do. They ranked the top most realistic World War II movies, and I thought it was pretty good, and I think you should go give it a listen as well. Again, link in the show notes to the Digression podcast, as well as a link to today's story if you'd like to read along and look at some photos from today's recipient. And that's all I have to go over today. So let's get into today's Tale of Honor. Harold, also known as Hal, was born in Chicago, Illinois on the 21st of February, 1944, and when he was 5 years old, moved to Wisconsin. He grew up listening to the stories of his relatives that were in the military, and he knew that he was going to serve the country in order to help maintain it. After high school, Hal was pursuing a career in veterinary medicine when he received his draft notification. He then enlisted into the U.S. Army at the age of 22, and after advanced armor training, he was accepted into officer candidate school. By early 1967, Hal was commissioned as a second lieutenant and was assigned to the 6th Armored Cavalry Regiment. In 1968, he was deployed with the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment to the Republic of Vietnam, and it was his actions on the 11th of January, 1969, that would later earn him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads,
"From the United States Army, Captain Harold A. Fritz, Armor, while serving as a platoon leader with Troop A, 1st Squadron, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment in Bin Long Province, Republic of Vietnam, on January 11th, 1969.
For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Captain, then First Lieutenant Fritz, Armor, U.S. Army, distinguished himself while serving as the platoon leader with Troop A near Quan Loy. Captain Fritz was leading his 7-vehicle armored column along Highway 13 to meet and escort a truck convoy when the column suddenly came under intense crossfire from a reinforced enemy company deployed in ambush positions. In the initial attack, Captain Fritz's vehicle was hit and he was seriously wounded. Realizing that his platoon was completely surrounded, vastly outnumbered, and in danger of being overrun, Captain Fritz leaped to the top of his burning vehicle and directed the positioning of his remaining vehicles and men. With complete disregard for his wounds and safety, he ran from vehicle to vehicle in complete view of the enemy gunners in order to reposition his men, to improve the defenses, to assist the wounded, to distribute ammunition, to direct fire, and to provide encouragement to his men. When a strong enemy force assaulted the position and attempted to overrun the platoon, Captain Fritz manned a machine gun and through his exemplary action inspired his men to deliver intense and deadly fire, which broke the assault and routed the attackers. Moments later, a second enemy force advanced to within 2 meters of the position and threatened to overwhelm the defenders. Captain Fritz, armed only with a pistol and a bayonet, led a small group of his men in a fierce and daring charge which routed the attackers and inflicted heavy casualties. When a relief force arrived, Captain Fritz saw that it was not deploying effectively against the enemy positions, and he moved through the heavy enemy fire to direct its deployment against the hostile positions. This deployment forced the enemy to abandon the ambush site and withdraw. Despite his wounds, Captain Fritz returned to his position, assisted his men, and refused medical attention until all his wounded comrades had been treated and evacuated. The extraordinary courage and selflessness displayed by Captain Fritz, at the repeated risk of his own life above and beyond the call of duty, were in keeping with the highest traditions of the U.S. Army and reflect greatest credit upon himself, his unit, and the armed forces. While deployed, Hal carried an engraved lighter and watch that were gifts from his wife, Mary, and it was later found to have deflected a rifle round that would have been lethal to Hal. After returning to the States, he was serving with the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment at Fort Lewis, Washington, when he was notified that he would be receiving the Medal of Honor. Hal, his wife, his parents, and 2 of his 3 children joined him at the White House on the 2nd of March, 1971, when he received the medal from President Nixon. Nixon had given all the men commemorative tie clasps, and Hal's oldest son said that his infant brother didn't get one because he was at home. President Nixon then took off his own and handed it to him and said, "Well, then give him this." Hal remained in the Army until 1993 when he retired as a lieutenant colonel after 27 years of service. He went to work for the Department of Veterans Affairs until he was let go due to budgetary restrictions. At least that is what the VA claims. Hal worked for John Johnston, the VA director at the time, and in 1999 tensions between the two grew high when Johnston claimed to police that Hal was trying to assassinate him. Even when Johnston was replaced as director, Hal was soon fired in what seemed to be office politics and took his case all the way to the state Supreme Court in 2004. Hal was later diagnosed with cancer from exposure to Agent Orange, which he completed treatment in 2019, and he still travels to schools to speak to students and teachers. Harold Arthur Fritz still lives in Illinois and is 79 years old at the time of this recording. And that was the Tale of Honor. Thank you for listening to Tales of Honor, and if you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe and tell your friends and family. Tales of Honor is written and produced by Christoph Ambrosch, and theme music is Loyalty and Duty by Floruz Music. If you have any questions, you can send an email to talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com, and please be sure to visit talesofhonorpodcast.com for more episodes and information.